everyone. Welcome to Barca News. Today is April 14th, 2026. My name is Mo, and this is the post-match live analysis where we analyze these Barcelona matches as soon as they end. Today, we're analyzing Barcelona's victory over Atletico Madrid 1-2 at the Metropolitano in the Champions League, where Barcelona have been eliminated because, of course, the global score or the overall score is 3-2 in favor of Atletico Madrid, who will now advance to the semifinals of the Champions League, while Barcelona will see their Champions League season over. Now, let's talk about the match because, objectively speaking, as a football fan, it was an incredibly entertaining match. Especially the first half, maybe not the second half, because I think during the second half, El Cholo Simeone did what he knows how to do best: just disrupt, destroy. Players throwing themselves on the ground, wasting time, faking injuries. So I think the second half, a lot of it was wasted. I think from the 60th minute until the end, it was pretty much, there was nothing there to see. There was no football being played at all. But for the first 60 minutes, I think it was an incredibly entertaining match, objectively speaking. However, as a Barcelona fan, of course, this does hurt a lot. Not so much because it's another elimination out of the Champions League, but I think it's because it just doesn't make sense. Or at least to me, it didn't make sense. Maybe it does to you guys, but it doesn't make sense because once again, we were better than Atletico Madrid. Once again, we dominated Atletico Madrid. Once again, we created way more chances than Atletico Madrid. Once again, even when we were down to 10 men, again, we were still better than Atletico Madrid. And once again, it was not enough. And this is why it just doesn't make sense. And it makes even less sense when you look at it at an even more macro perspective, because overall, we've played against Atletico Madrid 6 times this season. And out of the 6 times, we've won 4. 4. They've only won 2. And yet they have eliminated us out of 2 competitions. The Copa del Rey and now the Champions League. So this is why it just doesn't make any sense to me when you look at everything that has happened. Because even though we did score 2 goals today, it was still not enough. But there is a reason, of course, on why we're not through. It is the same exact reason as the first leg. Because it all came down to taking advantage of our chances, right? And Hansi Flick said this in a pre-match press conference yesterday. He talked and we reviewed his statements in the podcast during yesterday's podcast. And Hansi Flick said it's all gonna come down to whether we can take advantage of our chances or not. Because during the first leg, of course, we did it, right? We created way more chances than Atletico Madrid. We created a lot more danger. We dominated them. We shot 18 times, but we scored 0 goals. And yet Atletico Madrid had 2 chances, and both chances they scored. And that's how we lost the first leg. So this leg, we needed to change that. We needed to take advantage of our chances. And even though we did twice, with Lamin's goal and Ferran's goal, we didn't take advantage of our other chances that we created. And once again, it came down to the same exact thing, that we created way more chances, but we weren't able to take advantage of them. And this is why we are not out. And for the reason for that is because we still have players who are not Champions League material. And if they're not Champions League material, therefore, they're not Barcelona material. Because in Spain, we continue to conquer it. But of course, our ambition is to conquer Europe. So if you are not a player who can help us conquer Europe, then you're not Barca material. And we continue to have players who are not Barca material. Because once again, Dani Olmo did not show up. He had a clear 1v1 against the goalkeeper, and he missed. He had a second clear chance when he gets the ball in the box and sends it flying over the goal. Rashford, he comes in as a sub, and the guy's jogging. He's not even running. He's jogging. I don't know if he thought this was a friendly match. I don't know if he thought this was a warm-up. I don't know if they told him the official match was starting later in like 30 minutes or something. But the motherfucker was jogging. I can see why Manchester United don't want anything to do with him. And please, Deco, I also don't want anything to do with him. Jules Koundé. I thought, hey, he's back from injury. He's had 4 or 5 weeks off. He's going to be well rested. Nowhere to be found. Cancelo today didn't show up either, but okay. I can overlook that. Cancelo has been doing really well, offensively speaking, the last few matches. And then, of course, there's Ferran, who, sure, he showed up today. He scored a goal. He provided an assist. Amazing, amazing work by Sharquinho. But where was he in the first leg? And that's important, right? Because we always talk about, or at least I always talk about, consistency, right? Consistency, consistency, consistency. Something that I say a million times over this on this channel, and it still just falls on deaf ears or goes right over people's heads. And they're like, when the player that they love does one good performance, they come here pounding their chest. See, Mo, I told you, look at him. He did amazing. And it's like, yeah, that's great. But that's not how you win trophies. You don't win trophies by showing up once in a blue moon. You win trophies by consistently showing up. And yes, Ferran Torres showed up today. Yes, he scored a goal. Yes, he provided an assist. But where was he in the first leg? Because had he showed up in the first leg, guess what? Maybe he would have scored a goal. Maybe he would have provided assist. After all we needed was one more goal to stay alive. But he did it. And that is a problem that we cannot overlook just because today he performed. So again, Ferran, Rashford, Olmo, Koundé, players that simply have no business being on the squad. And until we get rid of those players, until we bring players who are actually hungry to win the Champions League, it's just not going to happen. Because you cannot win a Champions League with half a squad. And the crazy thing is we spent so much money on these players. 60 million on Koundé, 60 million on Olmo, 55 on Ferran Torres. Deco wants to spend 30 on Marcus Rashford. Meanwhile, Atletico Madrid spends 2 pennies on Lookman, 3 pennies on Sorloth, and boom. There they are, performing. Yeah, they did spend a lot of money on Julian. But why can't we sign a Lookman? And I was saying Lookman specifically, but a player like Lookman who for 30 mil can come and perform for you. Why can't we sign a Sorloth? Why are we spending money on people like Olmo and Ferran and Koundé and freaking Tigrinho, Vitor Roque, who, God bless him, is back in Brazil, thank God. But I think we have a structural problem here where we continue to sign players who are simply not Barca level. And we end up having to depend on players like Fermin and Gabi and Lamine Yamal and Gerard Martin, players who cost us nothing because they come from a Masia, or in the case of Gerard Martin, who cost us 2 pennies and a half. So at the end of the day, I think we see the same exact problem that we saw in the first leg. A Barca that was much better than Atletico Madrid, a Barca that dominated Atletico Madrid, a Barca that created way more chances. But at the end of the day, in a Champions League and in football and in life, if you don't take advantage of your chances, you get punished. And that's exactly what happened today. We got punished. We scored 2. We could have scored more. We didn't. So now we are out. And yes, the referee was absolute shit. And yes, once again, the referee bit us in the ass because Dani Olmo was fouled in the penalty box. And that should have been a penalty. Eric Garcia's red, I still don't see it. I think he put some contact on Sorloth. Sorloth goes to the ground. The referee sees a red. Not a single yellow to Atletico Madrid players, even though they were constantly fouling us left and right. And yet, every time Barcelona did something, it was an automatic foul. Every time Barcelona did something, it was an automatic VAR review. So, yes, referee was shit again. But at the end of the day, we should have finalized our chances, and we didn't. And it all comes down to the fact that we have players who are just simply not Barca level. Olmo needs to go. Ferran needs to go. Kunde needs to go. Rashford, I will drop him off myself back at Manchester United. And Lewy, I love you, bro. It's not a lack of skill or talent, but age catches up with all of us. And it's time we bid farewell. Thank you for everything you did for us. Thank you for coming during an incredibly difficult time for Barca. Thank you for helping us win the few trophies that we won these last 3 seasons. But it's time to go. Why is Laporta hell-bent on renewing him? I don't know. And by the way, terrible match by Pedri. But I'm not going to say we need to get rid of Pedri because Pedri is the best midfielder in the world. And he consistently performs like a god on the field. Today, it wasn't his day. It happens. But when you also have another 4 or 5 bums who don't show up, obviously, what can you do? By the way, Lamine, my God. Lamine once again unlocking God mode. I don't know what he's been eating, but Lamine is just on another level these last few weeks. Rudy Bardaji, by the way, he only had a few minutes. I liked what I saw. I think Flick should use him a little more. Honestly, after what I saw from Rashford, I wish Flick would have kept Fermin Lopez for the rest of the match. I hope Frankie would have came on a little bit earlier. But anyways, it is what it is. We're out of the Champions League. Again, until we actually tighten up the squad, it's just not going to be a trophy that we can win. Now, the silver lining, because I do like to focus on the positive. Silver lining is we have a good base. We have something to work on with. We have so many great players, and so many of them are so young. You know, players like Lamine, like Fermin, Gabi, players who cost us nothing, players who give it their 200%, and players who are very, very good. And they're so young that we know they're going to be performing for many, many years to come. So we have a good base, but we need to sharpen it up. We need to build on it. We need to improve on it. And that means cutting the dead weight, like Olmo, like Ferran, like Kunde. I don't want to say like Rashford because he's technically on loan, so he will be going back. Let's just hope Deco is not stupid enough to spend those 30 mil. But we need to cut the dead weight, and we need to replace it with Barca-level players. And again, you might say, well, Mo, how are we going to do that? We don't have money. We don't have financial fair play. Yes, you are right. But again, look at Atletico Madrid. How much did they spend on Sorloth? How much did they spend on Lukman? How much did they spend those 2 players? You know, they have been consistently performing for them. Now, sure, we don't have money to go spend on a Julian. We can make some decent signings and not have to break the bank. Because after all, we broke the bank on Olmo and Kunde and Ferran, and look where that got us. Absolutely nowhere. Anyways, that's all I want to say. Again, silver lining, we have a good squad. We have a young squad, a hungry squad, but we need to sharpen it up. We need to a few more additions, and we can be competing. And the other silver lining is, well, we still have La Liga, right? Sure, it would be nice to win the Champions League, but you cannot discredit La Liga. After all, that is the tournament of consistency. In order to win a league, whichever league is, you need to be consistent. And if you are consistently good, you win it. So you cannot think that, or you cannot buy into this whole Madridista lie that somehow La Liga is worthless and it's only worth winning the Champions League, because that's a lie. La Liga is much more difficult to win than the Champions League because La Liga requires consistency. Sure, the Champions League opponents might be tougher because you're facing the best out of the best leagues, Bayerns and Arsenals and Man Cities and all those teams. But it's only 13 matches. Well, I think it's more now since they changed the format, as opposed to 38. So do not fall in this Madridista trap, Madridista lie that somehow La Liga is not worth as much or that La Liga is worthless, because that's not true. La Liga is worth a lot. We're 9 points clear. Look, we could, win it again, second year in a row. So we have that silver lining as well. But anyways, that's all I got to say. Let's do a few more comments. I do see a couple of donations, so let's start with those as always. Thank you so much for the donation. Let's fucking go. Thank you, Shin, as always, incredibly generous with your donations. Shin says, well, UEFA got their wish and we're gone. I swear we will never win another Champions League under the system unless we get very good center backs who can defend off the high line. We had one. Remember Iñigo Martinez? I still miss that dude. I'm not trying to take away from Iñigo because obviously he was an incredibly amazing defender and even a better leader because he was just amazing. I'm not going to take that away from him. But we did get eliminated from the Champions League with Iñigo there, right? So I think constantly, because I see this a lot, right? People always thinking, oh, Iñigo left and this is why we're suffering. Oh, we suffered with Iñigo too. Because, it's just, like I've said before, it's just a byproduct of our system. When you play with such a high line, when you attack with all your players, you will get caught. You will get caught time and time again. It doesn't matter who we have in the back line, right? With Iñigo, we conceded a lot of goals. With Iñigo, we conceded 7 against Inter Milan. Again, this is not to say that Iñigo was bad or trash. Not at all. Amazing Iñigo. I miss Iñigo. But I think people use him as a scapegoat in a good way, not in a bad way. A scapegoat as in like, oh, ever since he left, we started struggling. And that's just not true. We've always struggled with goals, even when he was here. Obviously, it was a little bit better because Iñigo's amazing and I miss him. But that's not the problem. We can sign Iñigo back. Hell, we can clone Iñigo and make younger versions of him, prime Iñigos, 26-year-old Iñigos, and have 4 of them. We're still going to concede goals because it's just a byproduct of our system. But that doesn't mean that there's no room for improvement, because there is. And I think where we're getting caught a lot is the reaction of our center backs. It's not so much their speed, is when they start running back. And it's always after the pass is made. That's when they start running back. And by then, obviously, it's too late. The way that can improve is that our center backs need to be better at reading and anticipating what's about to happen. And know, oh, that guy is about to let out a long pass. Let me start tracking back before the ball goes out. That's what we're missing. And that's where we're lacking. That's how we got scored on today. That's how we got scored on last week, is that our center backs are reactive as opposed to proactive. They run back after the pass is out as opposed to before the pass goes out. It's kind of like a batter. A batter doesn't wait for the ball to come at him to swing, right? He starts swinging before the ball starts coming at him because the ball goes too fast. And if you wait for the ball to be by your bat to swing, it's too late, right? It's the same thing. If our high line is going to work, our center back is going to have to be better at anticipating, oh, that guy's about to let out a long pass. Let me start running. And that way, by the time the other guy makes the pass or starts making the pass or the ball starts flying in the air, you're already running back. And that's where we're lacking. It's not so much Iñigo's gone and all went to shit. That's not true because, again, we conceded 7 goals against Inter Milan with Iñigo there. That's not to say that Iñigo was bad. Not at all. I love Iñigo. But that's not the key to our problems. And share with a second donation. Thank you so much. Oh, wait, I forgot to say, let's fucking go. Thank you, my friend, for your generosity again. Bashin says we had Lookman and settled for Rashford. Yeah, man, I still don't understand the decisions of this board to sign players. We insist on wasting money. And then we're like, oh, we can't sign players because we don't have money. Well, apparently we do. because we are signing players and we are spending a lot of them, but we're signing the wrong players. 60 mil on Vitor Roque just so we can send them on loan to Real Betis and then sell them to Palmeiras. 60 million on Olmo for him to perform the way he performs. 60 million on Kunde for him to give us 1-2 good seasons and then disappear. I guess that one is not too bad because, all right, at least he performed when he first arrived. 55 mil on Ferran. And it's like, what are we doing here? Apparently there is money. I mean, between those signings right there, I mean, that's what? 4 times 6? Well, Ferran was 55, but let's round up. 4 times 6, that's 240 mil on wasted signings. And now we want to spend 30 on Rashford to make it 270. It's like, what are we doing? That's a lot of money if you think about it. 230 mil, 40 mil, sorry. That's a lot of money, man. That's good 4 signings, like Barca level signings. But anyways. Oh my God. Let's see. John says, I blame this on Flick. He shouldn't have kept the highline when we're 2 goals up. He lacks plan. No. That's exactly what we needed, because what we needed once we were 2 up, what? You give up and go defend? No, we needed to continue pressing, continue creating chances, continue scoring because we were tied. Of course, we needed the highline. Well, what did you want to do? Like score 2 goals and then retreat? And then what? We stayed 2-2. We go out to extra halves. And then what? We go to penalties. What happened is we slowed down after the second goal. We started as a steamroller. We scored the first. We scored the second. And after the 30th minute, we slowed down. And then came Atletico Madrid's goal. And it's like we didn't do anything really until the end of the first, until halftime. And then second half, we started out good. And then after that, the match just went to hell because, you know, El Cholo Simeone's team did what they do best. Delay, destroy football. You know, it's the same dirty tactics that his team always employs. So, no, it's not. You can't just retreat after 2 goals, my friend. Calho says, honestly, I prefer that Kunde goes back to central defense and maybe try Araujo on the right side. If not, let's get rid of them both. And Klaus says, Andreas Sheldrup as a possible option other than Trashford. I mean, at this point, man, I will hire Marshall, my dog, as our left winger. He's really good chasing the ball, by the way. He will press a lot more than Rashford does. Chirag Son says, I'm also cursed as well. Like Barca, I had never had good luck. I failed my reading exam. Barca and I had biggest bad lucks. We are unlucky. So, oh, man, I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry you failed your exam. But, you know, it's not about how many times you fail. It's how many times you get back up. So you got this, brother. You got this. I believe in you. Get back to studying, and you'll pass it. And even if you fail it again, keep trying. And I'm sure eventually you will. Because, again, it's not about getting knocked down. It's about how many times you get knocked down, but you continue to get up. Because we all get knocked down. We all do. One way or the other. Yours might be reading. Someone else might be writing. Someone else might be, I don't know, math. Someone else might be at work, love life, whatever. We all get knocked down. And, well, winners are those who get up. They continue fighting. Losers are the ones who get knocked down and just, you know, they stay down. And how else are you going to win if you stay down, right? So you got this, my brother. I'm sorry that happened to you, but I'm sure you will overcome. And Java the Hutt says, at this point, I would start Rooney over Rashford. Rooney can't play any worse. 100%. 100%. I totally would too. And Choo-Choo, what's up, Choo-Choo? Good to see you in the chat section. Choo-Choo says, Rooney was awesome, almost won the game. Yeah, man. That cross he sent to Araujo, that Araujo wasn't able to head. Whew. I want to see him more. And hopefully we'll see him more now that, you know, pretty much all we have is La Liga left, so there's no more competitions. We're 9 points clear. I think we could start using more of Rooney. I think this is the time. This is the time. Batman of Gossip City, you said we played good, yet our players need to position themselves better off the ball. I'm really disappointed in those missed chances in the end of the game. Yeah, man. Again, it all came down to us not taking advantage of the chances we created. Same thing as the first leg. Best in the game says Deco needs to get his shit right now. His shit right. How are the young players we got for free overperforming over the bot players? Exactly. That's exactly my point. We've spent all this money on players like Olmo and Ferran and Kunde, um, and it's like, where are they? Instead, we have people like Fermin and Gabi and Lamin who cost us nothing performing, or in the case of Gerard Martin or Pedri, even though Pedri didn't perform today, but I'm speaking in general terms, who cost us very, very little. I mean, Pedri cost us what, 20 mil? Gerard Martin, I think it was like 2 million, outperforming these guys who cost us an arm and a leg. And that's just not okay. Not okay. Let's see. Look, Tembro. What am I looking at? I was surprised by the lineup at first, but as Frankie said, we had no luck today. We should let this stop us from dreaming. Although what is inevitable, that change should be ASAP. I agree, my friend. I agree. Again, silver lining here. We have a good base. We have a good core. Let's put it that way. We have a good core. We gotta build on it, right? We gotta cut the dead weight. I already named them. I don't want to name them again. And build on it. Do a few good signings. I'm not saying go out there and spend 300-400 million. Obviously not. But we can make strategic signings. It doesn't always have to be go sign the guy who costs 150 mil. You can make strategic signings. But we have a really good base, a really good core, a core of young players who cost us nothing, who are hungry, who love this club more than they love themselves, who want to compete, who won that Champions League trophy. We got that. But now we need to bring him some help. Rashford ain't it. Okay? So Deco, please. Bring help doesn't mean go spend 30 mil on Rashford. Because that guy is done. That guy is done. I can see why Manchester United simply doesn't want him. Because he has no hunger. I mean, he's like me after a heavy dinner. Just like no hunger. Just on the couch like this. Mouth open. Belly stretched. Can't move. I'm not painting a good picture of myself, but it's the truth. It's the truth. What can I say? I'm a fat ass now, But anyways, Barca Mama said very disappointing day. Yes it is. Yes it is. Yes it is. Carlos says at this point it's just funny. It doesn't hurt anymore. What the heck? Did you think it was actually a red? That was soft. In that case, the Olmo foul should have been a penalty. Olmo foul should have been a penalty for sure. I don't think that was a red. But anyways, like I said before, with or without the ref, we should have been able to take advantage of our chances. We didn't. And well, it cost us. And we have 2 more. Let's fucking go. Shit, who says Inigo was the cheese? The problem was we never got a suitable mate for him. One man can't do himself to expect that is pure insanity. I actually liked Inigo with Pau. Pau Cubarsí and Inigo were really good. It was very like Puyol and Piqué back in the day, where you had, Inigo, the experienced man, which was Puyol, the experienced man, guiding and mentoring the younger up-and-coming defender, which, in the case of Puyol, it was Piqué. In the case of Inigo, it was Cubarsí. I wish we would have had at least another season of him, because I think Pau Cubarsí would have benefited a lot from having another season under the guidance of Inigo, because like I said before, defense, it's a lot about... Hold on. Oh, my God. Ooh, excuse me. Defense, it has to do a lot more about experience, And when you're that age, when you're Cubarsí's age, 18, 19 years old, you might be very skilled. You might have a lot of potential, but you need experience. And when you have someone like Inigo, or in the case of Piqué, someone like Puyol, who's telling you, hey, go here, go run there, cover that guy, go cover that hole, that helps a lot. That helps a lot because you learn from them a lot and you improve a lot. And, Piqué was blessed to have Puyol in his early years to learn from. And we saw what the defender that Piqué became. Obviously, towards the last end of the years, obviously he was underperforming, but that was more of an age-related thing. And I think Pau Cubarsí could have definitely benefited from another season with Inigo. But, you also can't blame Inigo for leaving, because he did what any reasonable person would do. You know, he saw his years in football coming to an end, and there comes Saudi offering you a lot of money. That was his last chance of cashing out a big check, and he took it. And I don't blame him because, you know, he's 34. Now, if he lives to, I don't know, what's the average male life expectancy? Let's say 75. If he lives to 75, that's 40 years that you need to think about how you're going to make ends meet. So I don't blame him. I don't blame him. But yeah, I wish he would have stayed another season. And we have another $32. Let's fucking go. Thank you, Nathan, for your generosity. And Nathan says Deco better get his ass work on signings. Amen, my brother. Amen. And with that, I shall wrap it up. Tough day, tough day. It sucks. It sucks. I know it does. Especially when you lose, you know, against a team that you were much better than in both legs. A team that you dominated in both legs. A team that you created more chances than in both legs. 2 legs where we got screwed by the refs, but at the end of the day, it's about taking advantage of your chances. We did not in both legs. And therefore, we paid the ultimate price, which is we're out of the Champions League. But again, silver lining, we have a good core. We just need to build on it. And that starts by cutting the fat. People like Ferran, like Olmo, like Rashford, like Koundé, and replacing that fat with muscle, a.k.a. good players. Players who are actually hungry to win the Champions League. Players who show up consistently, not once every blue moon. Yeah, the silver lining, we have La Liga, which right now looks like we could end up winning it unless something disastrous happens, which hopefully not. Anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for joining me on this live. I know it's not easy on a day like this, so I really, really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, be Barca.